I picked a chow! Opataya ni hao, which means hello. My name is Mr. Wong, and I used to live in China when I was a young boy. But now I live in this great country called the United States of America. My family has lived in China for over 20 generations, dating back to the Song Dynasty. I have a great memory of my childhood because I was a farmer's child born to sing song and Mr. Fing Fong. My parents died in the Great Leap Forward, which happened a very long time ago. As a farmer's child, my duties were to help harvest the rice and harvest bok choy with my parents. We did not have enough money to send me back to school, so I stayed home with my grandparents who taught me my ABC and 1, 2, 3s. They will also teach me about Buddha, which is one of the strongest religions in China to this day. Well, let's go stop talking about myself and talk about Chairman Mao, who you should be learning about right now instead of me, silly me. Chairman Mao, he was one of China's greatest leaders, even one of the greatest leaders in the world. What Chairman Mao did for China will help us through society through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. He started the Great Leap Forward. When he died in 1970, oh my god. China went to a great depression. I was a young boy when the Great Leap started. What the Great Leap consisted of, as my family, you know, a farmer. Well, we had to stop farming and we had to make steel work. So we stopped farming completely and we started making steel for China. We'd be making bolts, nail, steel beam. We do anything that works with steel. We became one of the biggest steel industries in the whole world. Now, what would happen was this would become a big, huge failure. China went into a huge food depravity. I think depravity. That's the word. My English really bad. I speak no English sometimes. But anyway, we had no food. But my village did. We kept producing food because we knew what was gonna happen. We didn't want to defy our great leader. But we do not know nothing what's going on. We do not know what's going on. And the Great Leap Forward was when Chairman Mao announced to the whole country that this was a failure. And that's what started the... What?
Great Depravity.
The Great Depravity. That was my assistant, Yi Hong King. Okay. This is when Chairman Mao lost power. He still had a figure and everybody liked Chairman Mao. Basically, he was like the Queen of England. He had a high title, but he could do nothing around China. Chairman Mao, when a young boy, grew up in southern China. He would be a farmer's boy like me too. He would catch cats and eat... Then, when about 21 years old, he started a rebellion against China. He felt like the poor people needed to be taken care of. So this is where he started his first campaign. Then, later in the years, he then became known as Chairman Mao, leader of China, formerly known as the father of China. Thank you, and this is my presentation. Ni hao, ni hao. My name is Sun Yat-sen. I was born on November 12, 1866. I am really well known as the father of modern China. I grew up in a village near a Portuguese colony. My father worked as a farmer, which was my family's traditional occupation for many generations. I finished my traditional years of schooling, and then I went to Hawaii with my older brother in 1879. Here I studied Western science and Christianity. In 1882, I graduated and returned to my native village near the Portuguese colony. Okay. Pause. In 1882, I graduated college and returned to my native village.
I then went on to practice medicine in Canton, China. But instead, in 1897, I returned to Hong Kong and I went and did medicine. My interest in politics proved more than my interest in medicine. I was upset by the government's corruption, inefficiency, and inability to defend China against foreign powers. So I wrote a letter to Li Hu-cheng, China's leader of the reform. The war between China and Japan appeared to present possibilities to overthrow the government. Then I returned to Hong Kong and decided to organize a secret revolutionary society. And then an uprising came around in Canton, China, and this happened in 1895. And it was discovered that several of my men were murdered and assassinated. So then I fled to Japan, where I was a marked man. I went in disguise and grew a mustache and wore Western-style clothes. I disguised myself as a traditional Japanese man. After all this occurred, I set back out for Hawaii, then I visited San Francisco, and then England to visit my former school instructor. My ideas formed into the three people's principles, which were nationalism, democracy, and the people's livelihood. I was under a lot of pressure from the Chinese government, and Japan threw me out of the country and I went into exile. After all this went down, I returned to China on Christmas Day in 1911, which a rebellion happened through the Yangtze Valley, and it overthrew the Qing dynasty. I had a very uneasy welcome that greeted me in Nanking, China, and the 14 provinces elected me as the provisional president of China. Provisional meaning the temporary government. Now on to some personal life of mine. I had many wives. Lu Muzin, Cao Otusuki, Sung Qingling, and Chen Kui-fin. They brought me up some children, so about 5 children. And then on January 1st, 1912, I proclaimed the establishment of the new Republic of China. After all this, a second revolution against Yuan occurred because his men assassinated Sun Chao-jin at a railroad station in Shanghai. Then after that, I tried bringing him to justice, the men who assassinated him, and he removed me from office and I fled again to Japan. I got support from the Soviet Union, and it gave me the muscle I needed for the reunification of China. I then became the head of the military government later on in my years, and then I was disappointed by many of my allies because they betrayed me, and then my health deteriorated in 1924, and in my final days I urged my followers to hold true to carry my goals in becoming victorious in the revolution. This war can be justified because China needed the change. China needed to break loose from the Qing dynasty, even though I was highly criticized for the way I did my things and how things rolled. I was the guiding spirit of the revolution and the change, and then I passed away on March 12, 1925 in Beijing. How long was it?
Thank you for choosing Tiny TV. Bye-bye.